What's up, Chicago? It's your man, Maze Jackson. Turn it around, Derek. What's up, Chicago? It's your man, Maze Jackson. You are tuned in to the Talk of Chicago, 1690 AM, and we are about to discuss the education of our young people. Right here. You know what? I hear so much about charter schools, education, good schools, bad schools. Who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? CTU, Chicago State, all of these different things. And I'm going to just tell you, I am completely lost and confused as it relates to the education of our children. And I have two kids who, for reasons that I'm sure, let me not even say that. I have two kids that do not go to Chicago Public School. As a matter of fact, I pay quite a bit of money for them not to go to Chicago Public School, just for stability. Not even for education, just to know that there will be, the doors will open, they will be there. So, today, I want to get to the bottom of this. I want to not even get to the bottom of it, but get some understanding on the education of our young people. So to do that, in studio live with me today, I have Mr. Sean Stallings, Principal, Holy Angels School. I have Miss Anita Andrews-Hutchinson, co-founder of Village Leadership Academy. And to bring higher education into the conversation, I have with me Mr. Cecil Lucy, who is the interim president at Chicago State. So, I think with this table and this panel, we should we should be able to get some real insights and get some real things accomplished. You guys ready for a conversation?
Yes.
Awesome. So, if you are like the average Illinoisan, you turn on the news every day and you hear something about the educational system. I'm going to start right now with the Chicago public schools, and then we're going to get all the way up to college education. Tell me right now, what's the situation with Chicago public? What is the current state of affairs for Chicago public school students, particularly because they impact black and brown students? Now, Sean, you've had some experience with Chicago public schools. Tell us what's the issue? What's the problem? What's going on there?
I have two daughters, and they both attend Chicago public schools.
They don't go to Holy Angels?
They don't go to Holy Angels.
I was giving you a hard time. Okay.
Well, one is aged out of Holy Angels.
Okay.
The issue. I think the issue with Chicago public schools is similar to probably what happens in most urban districts. There's the conflict between labor and pension, and those types of conflicts manage to find its way to the areas of funding that affect kids. And so you have principals and teachers that are working extremely hard to try to do the best job possible, but yet what they hear and what they receive is that there's not enough funding and not enough money to do all the things that they want to do. And so you have that tension, but then you also have the tension of labor, where the teachers want stability and want more money and more finances and best resources. And so that develops this gap. I don't know if there's wouldn't want to call it an academic crisis in Chicago public schools. I don't know if it's about the teaching and learning so much, because I think performance has shown to be improving. Performance has been better. I think that the schools are calmer and things are working in a better direction. So you have to be a little bit more specific on the questions of the issue.
So when we hear this concept of failing schools, when we hear the narrative of failing schools, that they are crumbling prisons, what is that narrative based on? Anita, let's go to you, Anita. What do you say that narrative is based upon?
Well, there is a disparity in the quality of schools in our neighborhoods. We do have a funding issue. Some schools aren't given as many resources as other schools, and so because of that, we have a situation where children are put in jeopardy. Their future is put in jeopardy because they don't have access to the same type of high quality education that all students are deserving to receive.
So, what I don't understand is, how does that happen? How does that happen? Mr. President, how does that happen?
Yeah, let me just add to that. I believe we have a fundamental societal problem that becomes magnified when we look at it as it relates to the impact on us as African Americans. And I use as the example, you use the words crumbling prisons. Well, you think about it, if you look at our prison system, we probably spend over $70,000 to incarcerate our people. And you look at the types of prisons that we're held in, and there would be called state-of-the-art facilities. On the other hand, we talk about funding, it probably averages out probably something less than $20,000 per pupil. So that's a fundamental disconnect as relates to priorities that we have as a society. So we will spend more per person to incarcerate than we do to educate. And I think that's a fundamental problem that we have. And again, it's magnified as we look at the impact that we see in our communities and we look at our failing schools. From a higher education perspective, we have the issue of college readiness. And clearly, our educational system is failing us, and not just African Americans, but students in general, in terms of college readiness. It's a societal issue that we're dealing with.
So, Anita, you seem like you had something you wanted to say.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on is that is also the access of controlling the institutions that are in our community. Principals don't have the autonomy to really make the decisions in concert with parents about what's best for their children. And I think that's a huge issue.
Okay. So, Sean, look, Sean's like, give me that. Go ahead, Sean.
I gotta jump on it a little bit.
Okay.
I think I take a little offense to the term crumbling schools
Okay.
that are like prisons. And I agree with what the president said in terms of investment in the prison system and how that definitely that's inequity right there, right? But at the same time, there are teachers and principals and school leaders that work every day in schools that we would term as a label as a crumbling institution, and that's just not the case. I would challenge the people who say those things to go into those schools and actually spend some time there and talk with the people to know exactly where that support and those resources could go. And I agree 100% what Anita says, like the autonomy effect is necessary because you have good, smart people that are talented that are sitting in some schools that are underperforming, but they're very talented people, but yet they feel as if they are restricted in what they want to do, or that whatever it may be, either from a resource standpoint or a political frame standpoint, there are restrictions placed on them that they can't take the risk that they believe they need to take in order to be successful.
So then, that leads me to my other question, which is, because you talk about the autonomy piece of it, right? And when we talk about the autonomy piece of it, you know what the first thing that comes to my mind is charter schools, right? So I think of charter schools as these experimental labs that people have been given funding and financing to try alternative methods of teaching children and engaging them in different ways, right? And we don't like the way that, we don't like the way that our kids are being treated. So here we have the opportunity to this vehicle, charter schools, in which we could take control of the plan and use the methods that are most effective to educating our students. But it seems as though there's a negative stigma placed on that. Can somebody help me with that?
Yeah, I think with charter schools, we have another issue. The issue with charter schools that I've seen is that it's been a lot of corporations or organizations that aren't from our community that are imposing what they think is best for our children into what the educational system, they think our children should have, instead of us defining and being allowed to develop the systems and tap into the resources to create our own system.
Ooh, so hold on. Because that sounds like a what's in it for the black people moment. Because you know what, and I'm going to, because this actually goes to what I find happening in most of our institutions that are in our communities that are for us, but tend to be led by people who may not look or think like us, but think that they know what's best for us. I call it this patriarchal, they got this patriarchal thing that they have that they want to, and it tends to be liberal folks who seem to think that they know what's best for us, but they don't engage us in the process.
Can I jump on? I'm gonna throw a little gas on what Anita said.
Gas. That's what this show is about. Gas. And I'm gonna need you to finish it, and then we're gonna cut out.
I'll be quick. I think Anita hit the nail on the head, but at the same time, one of the greatest pushbacks you're gonna hear about the charter schools is that they take kids, and if the kids, that they'll cream the top, they'll take kids in, and then the kids that can't cut it after a year or two are sent back, damaged, and now it's the responsibility of the neighborhood schools, the one that we call these failing, crumbling institutions, to repair them. And so they'll keep the ones that can do it, but then they'll send the ones back that they don't want anymore. And that continues that tension between charter and public, which you will get a lot of pushback and a lot of resistance on that.
Ooh, looks like they kind of trying to cherry pick the good ones. We'll talk about that and much more when we come back. Give us a call, 773-591-1690. It's your man, Maze Jackson. We are talking the education of our black youth, from the rooter to the tutor. We got from early child care to elementary, all the way up to higher education. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation.